We preserve them so that they're available in 500 years and however long for research, for cultural use, like the Philippine Collection is being used now to relate to contemporary groups from the Philippines. We go from two different viewpoints. The first and most important is what's called preventive conservation. And just like preventive medicine, it's keeping people healthy by preventing them from getting diseases. So with collections, we're looking at the storage environment. Is the humidity such that the objects will be physically stable? Have we eliminated pollutants that could chemically attack the material? Have we supported the objects so that they don't slump? As you can imagine, a round basket, if it's not supported, it can distort in shape, and that changes our interpretation of the function of things. Look at light levels that are on exhibit so that lights don't burn out the objects and fade the objects and degrade the fibers. It's looking at pest management to keep pests out from eating the collections. So, and that's the most important thing we can do, because that affects every object in the collection to keep it in a stable environment. The fun part is the interventive conservation, and that's working with individual objects to do treatment to stabilize them. Right now we're working on a beadwork collection. It happens to be North American, but in fact it's the same techniques that are used in the Philippines as well, of looking at when the threads are broken, the beads can be lost, and then you lose the design, and then you lose the interpretation of the object. I say it's the fun part because that's when you get to be working directly with the object. You're looking intensely at the technique that the maker used, the kind of materials that they used. You can often see tool marks on the object. So it's becoming intimate with the object in the same way that the maker was intimate. Not exactly the same way, but in a similar way to where the maker is. And that's a great feeling. Conservation is constantly, museums in general are constantly adopting the new industrial standards. Some of the materials we use are ones that were developed by NASA for the space industry. For example, they needed an epoxy that could withstand the highly intense sun that was going to be out in space. Well, that happens to be a really great epoxy for our use in museums because it doesn't yellow like most epoxies do. One of the first projects we worked on was our Chinese rubbing collection. That's a collection of about 8,000 pieces of rubbings, many collected in about 1900 to 1915, but some were contemporary rubbings at that time and some were older ones that were collected. That whole collection, it was folded up in drawers. So it was taken out. Each one was flattened, relaxed, given proper housing. We did high-resolution photographs of each one so that now scholars can see them online. I actually looked at every single piece of the Philippine Collection. I did the condition survey of it in 1994. And this was after I had been in the Philippines, and so it was interesting to compare. They had done a lot of work, I think primarily in the 70s, at rehousing the textile collection and hanging them so that they weren't all folded up, for example, protecting them from light. Baskets and bowls are stacked. Okay, that's not ideal. It wasn't causing a great deal of damage, but it makes them not very accessible for researchers. So being able to get them out makes them available not only to scholars who can come here, but to people from all over the world that have access to the collection. And that's why we have collections, is so that people can use them and use them for study and research and for just reinforcement of their cultural heritage.